Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the final match of the 2020 World Wheelchair Curling Championship, the gold medal match. And I would like to introduce you to the teams. First, the team of Ultimate, Anna Karpushina. Lead, Daria Shukina. Second, Vitaly Danilov. Third, Andrei Meshiryakov. And finally, skip, Konstantin Kuroktin. Please get a huge round of applause for Team Russia. And their opponents. First, Ultimate, Kalinda Joseph. Second, Dennis Thiessen. Third, Aina Boris. Fourth, John Thurston. And finally, the skip, Mark Eisen. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge hand for Team Canada. Good luck to both teams.
Right, John, you can put stones away now.
Thank you.
Speedy.
Games will begin in 1 minute. Good luck and good curling.
Good afternoon and welcome to the gold medal match of the 2020 World Wheelchair Curling Championships from Curling Club Wetzikon. My name is Lorna Rettig. I'm a member of Club Wetzikon here. This is where I play my normal curling. I'm also still associated with English curling and I'm originally from Greenacres, if you know your Scottish curling. So I'll be guiding us through the game this afternoon. So thank you everyone for joining. This is the culmination of a super competition at this year's World Wheelchair Curling Championships. This is the 6th and final of the knockout games. And so far 4 of the 5 games that we've played in the qualifying, the semi-finals and the bronze medal game this morning, 4 out of 5 of those games have gone to an extra end, showing just how tough it is out there, how tight the teams are, how high the quality is. So we've only got one more game left. This is Russia playing red stones in the darker uniforms and Team Canada playing yellow stones in the lighter uniforms. This is our last game for the gold medal in the World Wheelchair Curling Championships. So we're in the first end here. You can see on the scoreboard behind that Canada, the Yellowstones, they have started with the hammer. That means they start with last shot in this first end. You can see that little hammer symbol just next to Canada on the scoreboard there. How do we decide who starts with the hammer in the first end? Well, if you're playing at the club, then you just toss a coin, and whoever wins the coin toss, they get to start with hammer in the first end. Now at this level, it can be quite an advantage to have the last stone. So at this level, you have to earn the last stone. So both teams have a 9-minute practice before the match starts. And at the end of their practice, 2 players will throw 1 stone each, 1 clockwise, 1 counterclockwise. And whichever team cumulatively is closer to the centre of the circles with their both of their stones, they get the hammer in the first end. You have to earn it at this level. So Canada's cumulative total in centimetres was lower than Russia's, so Canada get to start with last shot here in the first end of this gold medal game. Now, both of our teams today both have a very strong pedigree in this competition, very strong record. So both Canada and Russia have won this competition 3 times each. Only Norway has won as many world wheelchair titles. So Canada, Norway and Russia have all won 3 titles each. So we shouldn't be surprised to see these 2 top nations battling it out again. So one of these countries will go top of the table with 4 World Wheelchair Championships. Other countries that have won this competition are Scotland, who have won it twice, and Switzerland and China, who have won this competition once each. So 2 real heavyweights of wheelchair curling battling it out for the gold medal today. Russia playing red, Canada playing yellow. Now both of our finalist teams today, they both made it the long way to this final game. So after the round robin rankings, Canada finished in 3rd place and Russia finished in 5th place, so they had to play an additional qualifying game. The structure of the competition is that the teams placed in 1st and 2nd after round robin qualify directly for a semi-final, and the team placed 3rd plays rank 6 and rank 4 plays rank 5 in a qualifying game to decide the other 2 semi-finalists. So both of these teams won their way through from that qualifying game that was played yesterday afternoon, and that qualified them for the semi-finals yesterday evening, where we had again 2 really exciting games. Russia got the win against previously undefeated China. China went through the round robin without a defeat. 11 wins, no losses. But Russia got the measure of them last night and qualified for this gold medal game. And in the other semi-final, Canada, the team we're watching just now, they played Sweden in their semi-final yesterday evening. Again, very tight affair, went to the last shot of an extra end. And Canada just squeaked out a win there. So they really took the long way to get to this final game, the gold medal game, both Russia and Canada. So they've got plenty of curling under their belts. They've had plenty of stones to look at the ice to get the feel for it. So let's hope all those qualifying games and several extra ends, let's hope that hasn't tired our athletes out, but at this level all of these guys will be pretty fit They'll be used to playing multiple games over the course of a week and a long competition like this. So that's how our teams got to this gold medal match. They really hung tough and fought their way the long way through. So now let's see what's going on in this first end. So Russia playing red stones, Canada playing yellow. So certainly some stones in play in this first end. If you were watching this morning, there were not a lot of stones in play. It was a very conservative strategy from both teams this morning in the bronze medal match between Sweden and China. So I think we'll probably see more stones in play with these two teams. They play a little bit more aggressively. So Canada with last shot. They have that corner guard on the left of the screen as we're looking. So they'll be hoping to use that later in the game. They would love to get one of their stones tucked in behind that guard and give themselves the middle to try to make 2 points in this opening end. So there are some stones in play in the house. There's a couple of Russian red stones there and also a Canadian yellow stone, but they're all behind the tee line, so Canada won't be too worried about that. Because if you push a stone behind the tee line, it gets further away from the centre, whereas the danger stones are ahead of the tee line because you can push them further towards the centre and get a bit closer. So they won't worry too much about these stones being behind tee. So that's a nice shot there. They were hoping for a roll, but that's not a bad result. Russia will want to move this Canadian shot, but there's a couple of those Russian stones behind. So if this stone over curls, yeah, he's just pointing to where he wants to hit the stone at the right angle. If this Russian stone over curls, there's a chance that the Canadian shot could go back into those two Russian stones behind. So it can be useful to have a couple of stones as backing. So it looks pretty good. Yep, he's nicely removed that Canadian shot. Yep, nice round of applause there for nice shot, well played there by Russia. But Canada can still get to that stone. Again, they won't be too worried, even though Russia has 3 counters lying in the house just now. Canada won't be too worried. The house is pretty open, and they can easily reach those stones, all of which are behind the tee line. So Canada won't be panicking. They're still trying to get that nice roll behind the corner guard and put a bit of pressure on Russia. This stone's curling nicely. I don't think it's going to roll behind the guard though. So that just removes that short stone and rolls out to the wing there. So this is a nice aggressive move from Russia. So there are a couple of things Russia could do. They could remove that Canadian stone in the rings, the Canadian stone just played, just to make sure there are never Canadian stones lying around the house. They could also remove that corner guard on the left of our screen so that Canada doesn't have any opportunity to get in behind it. But what they're doing is they're calling aggressively, so they're going to try to protect those 2 stones that they have already in the house. So this is a bold call in the first end from Russia. Good for you, Russia. They're not afraid to get stones in play. We saw this morning that both teams were highly cautious of each other, really not wanting to let stones lie around. So this is already a nice switching up in tactics. Aggressive call here from Russia. They want to put one in front of those stones that are already in the house for them. They don't really want this one running on to join that pair at the back. They want this one to stop before the tee line. And I think it is. That's a really nicely played shot there. So Russia really backing themselves to get stones in play, put stones in the house.
Make this double.
Give Canada
just off
something
nose.
to think about.
Okay.
So
Even
again, Canada
nose
won't be
isn't bad.
panicking.
Okay.
They can see all of that Russian shot just played, but they have to do something about it. Canada has last shot in this end.
9 just came up a bit.
8.5?
Yeah, 8.5, 9.
So if they want to score, they're going to have to deal with that Russian shot just played there. So that was a brave call from Russia, very well executed. Sometimes you'll see even attacking teams for the first end or two, they don't mind playing a more defensive game, just playing the hitting game, the take-out game, just so they get a bit of a feel for the ice and settle into the game. But not Russia, they're backing themselves from the first shot to get stones in play. So that was nice double take-out there from Canada. So important now is that Russia removed that stone, so that Canadian stone just played, that's now lying shot. You can see that's closest to the middle. Here we get another nice look at, really nice double take-out there. That's removed a lot of the danger that Russia was causing for Canada. So really nicely played there from Canada. So again, Russia want to remove this shot. They just want to be careful that the stone doesn't curl too much. Otherwise it might catch that red stone just behind the Russian vice skip there and jam. So they don't want that. But important is that they remove this Canadian stone and that they hang around. Otherwise, that earlier Canadian stone that's now out in the wing all on its own, that could come into play. So, yep, no overcurling here. No mistake from the Russian skip. Nice shot there. So that's exactly what we were speaking about. So important is that Russia is now lying two shots.
Okay.
If that Russian shot had rolled out, then it would be easy pickings for Canada to remove the second Russian counter and then lie two yellows. So that was really important that Russia would make the hit and stick there and not roll out. So Russia still asking the question of Canada in this first end. Is she going to get another double? Yes, she is. That's two lovely stones from Ina Forrest. Oh, my apologies, that was last stone. That was John Thurston playing.
Nice pair.
So, great double there. So Russia tried to make it hard for Canada to get 2 points. And Canada was up to the task. Two lovely double takeouts with their last two shots. And a well-deserved score of 2 in the first end. So we're already off to a nice scoring start. There we are, confirmation of that first end. Canada scoring 2. So now Russia have the hammer. They have last shot in the second end. So that's already as many points as we got in the first 6 ends this morning. So
It's our time, like.
a bit more exciting, more stones in play for us to watch.
Okay.
So Canada starting off with the second end. Let's see what their tactic is here. So there are typically 2 shots that teams would play at this stage. So it looks like Canada's going straight into the house. They want to get that nice and close to the centre. And that's a lovely shot there from Canadian skip Mark Edison. Now the reason they do that
Well, it was a little slower.
is because, again, they don't want to give Russia any opportunity to start building points. They don't want to give Russia guards to hide behind that Russia could also use and have a better chance of picking up 2 points. So Canada happy to keep the game in the house.
Perfect.
Canada are 2 points ahead, so they don't need to
yeah, right
work
here.
to build an end at the moment.
Great, thank you.
So that's not a bad result for
Do you
Russia.
like the second guard, or
That maybe looks like a bad shot because it looks like it's guarding that Canadian stone.
Took away a piece of their red.
That it
is that the
is,
same ice?
but that's still a guard that Russia
Okay,
can
just a hair
use.
more then.
So they can sneak around that guard,
Got it, Mark.
and then if they can touch out that Canadian stone, then they'll find that guard very useful. So that maybe looks like a mistake, but it isn't. That was a deliberate shot from Russia. They need some guards out front that they can hide a couple of shots behind. Now Canada cannot remove that Russian stone just played,
Just under it.
but what they can do is play something pretty similar to
Good spot, Mark.
their last shot. That's a lovely shot again from Mark Edison. He's having a really strong competition. So that really blocks the path to that Canadian stone just to the left of the Russian skip there. That really blocks the path to that. So Russia has last shot. They certainly don't want to lose any points to Canada on this end. But if they want to score, they're going to have to give themselves a bit of a path in the middle. And that's not such a good result for Russia. They have removed that guard, but Canada still lined those two shots.
I think we'll come the same way, just halfway.
So Canada will be
Good
quite
job,
happy to
Mark.
put that guard back,
Yeah, so
put the pressure back on Russia.
15.
So
Got it, Dennis.
Dennis
You
Teaton,
can over curl center just a little.
they're now discussing where they want that stone to end up.
Gonna curl a bit.
So this looks pretty nice. Really nice line. So it's
Spot.
running on a wee touch, but
Nice spot.
that's okay. So that's, there is a double takeout there, but still that Canadian shot stone, that very first shot that Mark Edison played, that shot's still there, the one just behind the Russian skip there. So even if Russia makes this double takeout, Canada should still be able to guard their shot stone and keep putting that pressure on Russia. So Russia are trying to do the opposite. They're trying to keep the middle clear. They have last shot in this end. And they don't want to be looking at a bunch of Canadian stones right in the centre. That makes their life a bit more difficult. So this looks pretty accurate. Yep, nice shot there from Russia. And a nice little roll into the front ring there. Really nicely played there from Russia. So they've cleared out the
8.5,
middle,
9.
got a
Got it,
roll
Dennis.
into the front
Nice
ring.
and smooth.
And Canada immediately going to remove that Russian shot. They don't want to leave Russian stones lying around. They've still got that, the first shot, sitting there just to the left of Mark Edison. So they're happy just to remove this Russian stone completely
Stay. Come on. Curl.
and give the difficult shots to Russia to try to build an end.
Ah, you threw that
there's a
great,
nice
Dennis.
shot.
Nice throw.
It's a good spot.
Nice throw, says the Canadian skip. It was indeed.
Nice throw.
So again, Russia won't be panicking here. So there are a couple of Canadian counters, but Russia have last shot. There's plenty of space. There's no guards out front that they have to navigate. So they won't be panicking, but they've got a bit of work to do if they want to try to level the score by getting 2 points in this end. They've got going to have to start building rather than playing the takeout game.
Okay.
And that's a big miss there from Russia. So the momentum back with Canada now. So now
Well, come your in turn.
they're going to consolidate their position. They've still got that nice shot, that original shot, very close to the centre, and they're going to consolidate that position in the middle of the sheet now by throwing up a guard.
Well, we haven't thrown this.
So that was a costly miss there from Russia. It's only the second end, so
14.
again, they won't be panicking too much, but they could be making their life a little bit difficult to score in this end now. Canada, meanwhile, they'll be pretty happy with how this end's going for them. Russia not managing to put pressure on Canada at the moment
Looks
in the
hot.
second end. Canada really dictating the tactics here. So this stone's running a little bit high for a guard. But that's almost a freeze,
Okay.
just bumps it back a couple of inches.
13-2.
That's not a bad result at all. Ideal for Russia here now is if they can get to the face of this pair of Canadian stones, they'll remove the back one and sit right in front of the other Canadian stone. They're not going to get to the face of it. He doesn't quite get the double, but at least the centre's clear now, so he's moved both those stones off the forefoot.
Same weight.
So again, Russia's they're not panicking yet, but
I'm gonna spread it out a little more, Ryan, sorry.
they're not looking good for picking up two in this end. They may be forced to take a one. So this is good pressure from Canada. They're just methodically putting stones into the house, just making their shots nice and cleanly, forcing Russia to come up with the answers, and Russia had that miss there on the wing. So it sounded like the call was similar weight with this stone. This looks about right.
4. That's right.
Yep, that does look like similar weight as the last stone. Nice shot there. So again, everything's open, everything's in the house. So this shot's not too complicated for Russia, but they're not having the opportunity to build up an end. They're not getting Russian stones in play, hidden behind guards or with some backing to protect the stones. So at the moment, in this second end, Russia won't be panicking that they're going to lose the end. They look like they should be able to score 1 point, but they may struggle to score more than one, because Canada are just going to keep removing the Russian counters. These are nice straightforward shots for Canada as well.
Nose.
Okay.
Eight and a half, 9.
Okay.
Should finish a bit here.
So you heard the Canadian skip say 8.5, 9. He's talking about the speed of the stone. So he's talking about how many seconds the stone takes to travel between the hog lines. The hog line is that blue line, thick blue line right in front of the player going across the ice. And there's an equivalent line at the other end, which we'll just see in a second. There you go. And
They're gonna make my rock
that's a
over
nice
curl.
takeout weight. And that stone, they were aiming for that stone to take about 8.5 or 9 seconds to travel between the hog line at the throwing end, the blue line at the throwing end, and the hog line here
I was like,
at the other end.
well, Dennis is going curl.
And you'll hear the players often discussing
I don't want it.
the timing of the stones. So also, if you're throwing a draw, if you're just trying to land it close to the centre, you'll also hear the players discussing how long the stone travels between those two lines. So for
I got some finish.
a dead draw, a stone that just lands in the centre, that would be more like 13 or 14 seconds, so not 8.5, 9. That's going to be travelling much too quickly to stop. So you'll quite often hear the players discussing which or what time they expect the stone to take. So first shot from the Russian skip here, Konstantin Kuroktin. He's made a nice double take out there. Can hear some applause for a nicely executed shot there.
Kind of like the other, yeah.
Yeah.
And that certainly helps, because if Canada hit and roll out now, then Russia will also have the opportunity to hit and roll out and may not be forced to score. So that's certainly a nicely played shot that Konstantin Kuroktin executed there.
8.5, 9.
There we hear it again, 8.5, 9. That's how long the stone will take to travel between the hog lines. So this will be going at quite a pace. You can see strong push there from John Thurston. No mistake there, no roll for him. So Russia's just played a double, but that's quite a tough double. It's quite thin to get both of those yellows out. And I'm not sure he could do that and roll out himself, so I think Russia accept that best plan of action here is to accept that we're going to score 1 point. So let's make sure, nice tidy shot, make sure we score 1 point, make sure we don't lose any points. So nice and steady from the Russian skip. Needs to hit and stick here to score 1 for Russia. No mistake there. Nice solid shot. So that's 1 red, 1 point to Russia. So those were nicely played stones in that second end. The happier team from that end will be Canada, because now Canada has the last stone back and Russia only scored 1 point. So Canada is now plus 1 point.
Deep on the guards, but
And they have the hammer back. So there we have confirmation.
Right up the stick, yeah.
So yeah, Canada in a nice position here in the third end. 1 point ahead, and they now have the last shot advantage.
No change. I think I'll try to get it on the rings. And
So you would hear curling people say that Canada forced Russia to take 1 point there. What that means is Russia didn't have the choice to blank the end and hold on to last shot, as they might have wanted to do, because there were 2 Canadian shots in play there. So no chance for Russia to blank the end. Double was very difficult to hit and roll out. So you'll hear people talk about forcing Russia to take 1. So Russia's only choice was to make that shot and score 1 point, or give points away to Canada. So they had no choice but to take 1 point and give up that last stone. So Canada will be pretty happy with their execution of that second end. They really kept the pressure on Russia, didn't let Russia get settled, didn't let Russia start building stones. And now Canada has that 1 point advantage, and they have last stone back. So here seems a good point to, again, just understand why it's much more significant to get 2 points like Canada did in the first end, rather than 1 point like Russia did. So if we think about...
13-9 didn't get me there last time.
That's just the Canadians talking about
Yeah,
the time again of the stone to get to the T line, as Ina is signalling. So yeah, it's much more significant that Canada got 2 points with last stone in that first end, rather than Russia getting 1 point with last stone in the second end. Because the second end was a fairly typical way for an end to play out. And you can see that at this level, you don't get many misses from the teams. And at this level, it's relatively straightforward that if you have last shot, then you can normally make 1 point without too much difficulty. These are top level athlete, so it's not like at club level where you can expect a couple of mistakes. There won't be many mistakes at this level. So if you have last shot, then making 1 point with that last shot is relatively straightforward, and you can see that in the second end there, the Russians had a relatively simple shot. They still had to make it, but it was a relatively simple shot, an open hit and stick to make 1 point. So if we consider that as almost the default situation, that if you have last shot, you can generally make 1 point. That's why it's much more significant if you can get a mistake from your opposition and instead get 2 or more points when you have last stone.
Just a 10,
so that's why.
Yeah.
So now Canada calling for a 10, so that means 10 seconds between the two hog lines for the stone. So this will be going at a medium pace. They want to move that red, but they're not going to throw it too strongly. So that's why it's significant that when you have last shot, you really want to try to score more than 1 point. And conversely, if you don't have last shot, you are happy to try to force or keep your opposition to scoring only that 1 point.
No.
Now here could be an interesting situation. So if that red goes out of play, oh, I think he's going to get away with it. That's just hanging on that red. If that red had gone out of play, the stones would have gone back to where they were because the free guard zone is still in play. The free guard zone is all of that white area ahead of the rings that you can see in the overhead here. So everywhere in front of the rings but not including the rings, that's the free guard zone for the first 5 stones. So those stones, you can move them around, but you're not allowed to take them out of play.
The other side.
So if that red had gone out of play, because it started in the free guard zone, the stones would have been replaced and the Canadian stone removed, as if that stone hadn't been played. You put the stones back as they were. But they got away with it. They didn't send the red out of play. But this is some handy play now from Russia. So remember, Russia did score in the second end, so now Canada has last shot. So Canada has that corner guard, so they'll be hoping to use that later in the end. But at the moment, they've got a few Russian counters that they'll have to deal with. This is the danger shot, is that Russian stone just ahead of T. So ideal is if they can remove that shot and get a roll behind that corner guard that they've
good
prepared.
throw, Dennis. Didn't give you enough.
That's good to hear from Mark Edison that he says, you threw that stone nicely, Dennis, but we needed a little bit more ice.
Sure.
But first things first, that Russian counter, the danger stone, is removed. So now Russia will just do the same thing. That Canadian stone ahead of T there, that's the danger shot for them, so they're quite happy to just keep removing Canadian shots. They want to be a bit careful not to catch that back red as they push the yellow out. So they did catch their own winger there, but still Russia lying 2 shots. And not an obvious double takeout for Canada. So
8.5, 9. Nice. 8.5, 9.
Canada could make the very aggressive call and try to go directly behind that corner guard. But if they didn't make that shot, they would really be handing the advantage to Russia. So they're playing it safe a little bit and just removing this Russian counter, and they'll be looking to hang around after this as well.
Nice throw.
So this looks like a really nice throw. He's going to get a bit of a roll. Is he going to sit in front of the Russian stone? Not quite. But a stone behind the stone you're trying to hit. Here you can see the nice angle there. If this Russian stone over curls, there's a chance that the yellow will drive back into the red and still hang around. So it's always handy to have stones behind to catch the stones you're trying to hit. And ideal for Russia is to remove this Canadian shot and hang around themselves again, so that Canada's not going to have a chance to start building an end, which they do. Yep, nice shots there. Now, the Russian stones are a bit closer together, so there is
Think just off nose here,
a
right?
possibility for double takeout, but Mark Edison indicating just to remove this front red. And perfect stone placement here would be to remove that Russian stone and then just get a little roll to the left to sit in front of their second counter.
Maybe the back one.
Well, that sounds like it was maybe wide out of hand. No, it's curling nicely. I'm not sure it's going to stick though.
Okay.
That's going to roll out.
Yeah, I thought you just set it a little bit. 8-5. Yeah, I think the weight was good.
There's some discussion in the chat going on regarding the stick technology that the wheelchair throwers use. I must admit, I don't know too much about stick technology, but it looks like some folks in the chat have more experience and able to offer ideas there. So stick technology, you can see all the wheelchair athletes deliver the stone using a stick, and stick technology has really advanced in the past 4 or 5 years. In the beginning of wheelchair curling, people almost made their own sticks. There were not really rules and regulations about the length or that little flexible part at the end of the stick where it connects to the stone. And now
Say again? I know, we hit that though. They're coming around. We might be able to get this on.
I think that's the right call for Mark Edison. I don't see any advantage to hitting that back red, because indeed then
9.5, I think.
Russia's just going to use that centre guard that they've just thrown.
9.5.
So stick technology is now guided by World Curling Federation policy. So there has been much advance in stick technology regarding the length of the stick, the flexibility of the little hinge at the end that connects with the stone.
Yeah.
Just like sweeping rules for foot curlers. He's willing the stone to stay just there.
Ah, nice try.
So they were being quite ambitious there. They would have liked to spin that yellow stone just thrown, spin that into the rings there. But a second guard there is not too bad. So not only wheelchair athletes deliver the stone using a stick, some foot curlers also use a stick. If perhaps you have limited mobility in your legs or difficulties with your joints, then at the club level there are several players who are non-wheelchair curlers, but they also deliver the stone using a stick. Club Wetzikon has a stick tournament where all players must deliver the stone using a stick. I've never played in that competition. I have never tried to deliver a stone using a stick, so it is open to everyone. And the wheelchair curlers from Club Wetzikon normally do quite well in that competition. So there was a chance for Russia to get another shot in. They have, but that's quite a way behind tee, so there's plenty of space for Canada to also use those corner guards, exactly where Mark Edison is signalling with his brush.
I had 12-7 on his.
Yeah, I had 12.9. Yeah.
Again, they're discussing the speed of the ice.
So what are you thinking?
13?
Yeah, 13, 13.2.
Okay.
They're discussing how long the stone should take to travel between the hog lines if it's to end up just at the tee line. So But that's a nice view of the stick delivery technique that all of the wheelchair athletes use. You can see that some of the athletes, like Dennis Thiessen here,
11-7.
who's just thrown this,
Okay,
11-7,
sorry,
so that's
All right.
faster than they were expecting, and indeed that stone's not going to hang out.
Sorry, guys.
So a bit of a let-off for Russia there. So now Russia are going to try that same thing. They're going to try to block that path behind the corner guards so that Canada can't use that to start building points. So here's a really nice overhead of technique used to deliver stone, typical technique from the wheelchair athlete. So we have our thrower using the stick, and then oftentimes you will have a colleague holding your wheels for extra stability. And then the third Russian colleague was even holding the supporter's wheel there, just so that you're nice and stable and you don't wobble when you're delivering that stone. So that's coming up a bit short now. So that's a bit of a mistake.
What do you
from
like,
Russia.
John? You like the hit or the draw? This, if you hit this one, we're shot on the nose.
I like
Or you
that.
draw.
I like that. I like the hit.
Okay.
So Canada likes the hit. The two shots they were discussing was this one, so removing this Russian counter. And if he hits it directly, as we heard the Canadian skip say, then the yellow will be closer, so the yellow will be shot. The other option was to try again to
8.5, 9.
go around
Okay.
those corner guards and bury a shot in behind. This is again the safe call. Yep, no trouble there.
Yellow.
So again, we would say that Canada was forced to take one there. So Russia was lying 2 points as Canada came to play their last shot. So no double takeout available for Canada, no possibility to blank the end.
I like the hit.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
So again, Russia will be
Good job, guys.
happy with their performance in that end.
All right.
that.
They managed to force
one
Canada
ball
to score
dropping on
just
the lip.
1 point, which, as we know, is kind of the default at this level with last stone.
Get in, buddy.
So they'll be pretty happy that they forced Canada to score only 1 point and give up last shot. So now Russia has last shot going into the fourth end. Here we are, confirmation of the score in that third end. So now Canada leads 3-1 and Russia has last shot back. And we can see still how important that score of 2 in the first end was
Good
for
for
Canada.
time.
It was a significant score, so even just by scoring 1, Canada gets that advantage back to plus 2 points. So you can really see how significant it is, how important it is when you manage to score more than 1 when you've got that last shot. So Canada starting us off in this fourth end. And as we've seen the teams do all week, Canada are plus 2. They don't need to work hard for points at this stage in the end, at this stage in the game.
Yeah.
So they're quite happy to put that first shot into the house. They don't want to put out a guard that Russia could also use.
Yeah, looks like.
Canada are plus 2. So they're quite happy to keep the game in the house. Now Russia are going to try to use that initial Canadian stone that's just in the front ring. So the ice is curling enough that you can get in behind it. That was a really good effort there.
I like the
From
other turn,
Russian lead Daria Shukina. That seems like a nice opportunity to notice another difference between wheelchair curling and foot curling is that
Here's finished.
wheelchair
this side
curling
here.
does not have any sweepers, so sweeping is not allowed in
Yeah.
wheelchair curling. And that shot from Daria the lead player for Russia. If Daria had had people sweeping her stone, I'm sure she would have got round that front Canadian stone. But sweeping is not allowed in wheelchair curling, so the wheelchair athletes have to get their line and length perfect from release. Oops, he just caught an edge of that, but he wasn't happy with it from release, that shot, so bit of a let off for Russia. As he just catches an edge, but doesn't remove that Russian stone from play. So Russia says thank you very much.
And it's gone, just holds that line.
So Russia has last shot in this end, and that's already a chance for Russia to now start trying to build an end, trying to get some more shots in play.
Rolling out.
And I think this shot's going to over-curl. It does. Oh, but she's got away with it. It's missed that red right in the middle there.
Which turn do you like? Okay.
But they didn't quite make the most of that opportunity there, so
I like
Canada gave them a miss,
Nice
but that shot over-curled for Russia. She just nudged that stone on the way out. So important for that shot was that Russia really wanted to lie 2 after playing that shot. That had to be a hit and stick. And now that's giving Canada the opportunity to just remove the remaining Russian shot from play.
Good spot.
And as you were. So Canada will certainly be quite happy to continue the takeout game in this end. Not give Russia a chance to build up points. Russia had a half chance there when Canada had that miss earlier on, but didn't manage to take it.
Rolling out. 13 and a quarter.
So now Canada has a
13 and a half.
free go at a T-line weight. That's good to get some practice in for getting T-line weight in your pocket. So remember, Dennis Thiessen, the second thrower here for Canada, he doesn't have sweepers. So as soon as that stone's released, he doesn't have anyone sweeping to help with the weight of the stone, to drag it a bit longer if the stone's a bit short, or to help with the direction. So it's hard to get that weight correct when you don't have sweepers to help. So that's run on a little bit long, but that's still in the house.
1275.
1275.
So Russia with last shot in this end, they are now making a slightly more aggressive call. They could have just removed that. They could say to themselves, we're not going to manage to build stones in this end, but you can see there's still plenty of stones to come in this end. We're only halfway through. So this is a nice call from Russia. They're going to try to use that stone behind the tee line that Canada just played. They're going to try to just roll up to it. But this looks a bit chunky. I don't think that's going to stop. No, it isn't. So it does catch an edge of the yellow, but rolls out itself. So there's a few wee half shots creeping in
1275 on Dennis's.
from both teams now.
Top 4. Top 4, top 8.
Couple of misses, couple of half shots in this
13.5.
end. Neither team really being able to capitalize on those mistakes. But also neither team really in trouble in this end.
If you like the other turn on, you threw it 2 ends ago.
6.
12-8.
So another little half chance. Not really taken by Canada. They wanted that stone ahead of tee. And now Russia will try the same shot that they just tried. And I think Russia have done the same again. Maybe some nerves creeping in, or this is the final game of a long competition, so maybe some tired muscles out there, because Russia have done exactly the same again. That was a bit too long. Didn't manage to find that Canadian backing. It's close, says Mark Edison.
I like the same shot. Yeah.
So he's not sure if that red's still within the rings or not, and that could be important later if it is.
This must be a quick path. 13 and a half.
13 and a half. It's like pre-game practice.
They could remove that Russian stone from the back if they were worried if it was still in play. But this is the more aggressive call, so what they're going to try to do is put a Canadian stone in front of those two stones at the back. So again, let's appreciate that most of us are foot curlers, so let's appreciate that these athletes don't have sweepers to help with direction of the stone or the weight of the stone. This is another good effort from Ina Forrest here. So that's still behind tee, but she's really cut down the space that Russia has to get a shot close to the centre now. There's an interesting discussion going on about stick technology in the chat here. It seems like there's a couple of people in the chat much more knowledgeable than me, so if you are interested in where the discussion is at the moment regarding stick technology, there are certain controversies, just like in the sweeping technology discussion, whether particular materials are more advantageous or not. So I'm not very knowledgeable about that, but it looks like there's a couple of knowledgeable people in the chat if that's interesting for you.
Like the out turn?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that really helped Russia. I'm not quite sure what they were trying to achieve with that.
Yeah.
Maybe just remove that Canadian shot from the 4 foot. But at the moment, Russia not managing to really build an end here. What I can say for sure regarding stick technology is that all of these sticks in use in this competition, they must be in compliance with the World Curling Federation policy on stick technology. So there may still be more to discuss regarding advances in stick technique, but certainly all of these athletes will be compliant with the World Curling Federation rules. That's a really nice shot from John Thurston there, really removing the danger of that back Russian shot, whether it was in or out. It's definitely removed from play now. Really nice double, and just going to take that back stone out as a little bonus. So if Russia want to make 2 here, they've only got 2 shots to come. They're getting forced to score 1 all day. I don't see them removing all 3 of those Canadian counters. So if they do want to score 2, their best chance to do so is to try to just roll up in front of that yellow. But it looks like they maybe try a slightly different approach, which would be to remove the yellow and then roll to the right of the brush of the vice skip there. So that he would be sitting in front of the Canadian shots as a bit of backing. So he certainly moved the yellow. Has he got the roll? A little bit, yeah. So that's a good effort there from Russian skip Konstantin Kuroktin. He's hoping that he can get a half mistake, a half shot out of the Canadians, and those 2 Canadian stones at the back
You like
maybe
that ice?
Yep.
catch this stone on its way out. So here's a nice replay. Nice hit and roll from the Russian skip. Couldn't do too much more with that shot. That's a good effort. And Canada immediately put the brush down to cleanly remove that played Russian stone so that Russia has no chance to make 2 points. This looks pretty nice from John Thurston again. And now there is a double takeout possible, so Russia could go for the double takeout, try and roll out themselves and hang on to that last shot. Or they may just go ahead and score 1 here and reduce that deficit to 1 point instead of 2. So they know this line pretty well. They've played several shots down this line. This looks like a nice effort from Russia, yep.
All right.
Bit of a bonus, gets the double there. And a nice safe score of 1 there for Russia in this 4th end. So wheelchair curling games are 8 ends long, so that's us now in the half-time break. So mixed curling and mixed doubles curling, they're also played over 8 ends. Here we are, that confirms the score at half-time. So Canada leads 3-2. They get the hammer back, going into end 5. So Canada will be pretty comfortable in this position. They're 1 point ahead and they have last shot. So even if Canada just keeps scoring 1 from here, as long as they keep Russia to only score 1, which they're doing very effectively so far, that could be enough. So we've seen that there are several differences between wheelchair curling and foot curling. So there's no sweepers in the wheelchair game, and the athletes deliver with stick technology rather than the foot curler classic delivery. But nevertheless, curling's a very inclusive sport. So at the club level, it's very much all mixed in together. So men and women play in the same team. Younger and older folks can play in the same team. It's very common that families play together, so parents play with their children, or even grandparents can play with their family. It's a very inclusive sport, and that includes our wheelchair colleagues. So at this level, it's a bit different. So we have the wheelchair competition, men's competition and ladies. But at the club level, it's all mixed in together, and that includes your wheelchair colleagues. So if you're a wheelchair user, or if you have a friend who's a wheelchair user who would like to get into curling or who would like to try, it's completely easy to go to the curling club. You don't need to join a wheelchair-specific curling club. You can easily mix it up and play in the same team as your foot curler colleagues. It's just a little bit different because, again, you don't necessarily have that additional sweeper, but it's completely possible. You don't need to have a dedicated wheelchair curling club, unlike perhaps other sports for, say, wheelchair basketball or wheelchair tennis. So in curling, you can absolutely play with your foot curler colleagues in the same team. So there's no barrier to getting involved in curling, having a try at curling if you're a wheelchair user, or if you have a wheelie friend who would like to try. So while our teams are having a chat with their coach and their alternate about the second half of this gold medal game, we can see again how our teams got here. So this competition is the top 12 teams in World Wheelchair Curling. We can see that China and Sweden, they finished first and second respectively. That's what the capital Q means. So they got a direct passage to the semi-final, which was played yesterday evening. Places 3 to 6, they play a qualifying game. So that was what the lowercase q means. And Canada played Korea and Norway played Russia in the qualifying game. The winners of that qualified for the 2 remaining positions in the semi-finals. So you can tell, because of who we're watching, that Canada and Russia won both of their qualifying games and played China and Sweden in the semi-finals last night. So we had, again, 2 great games. We featured the game between Sweden and Canada, and the other semi-final was China taking on Russia. We had 2 super games. The Sweden-Canada game, again, went to an extra end. We've had a lot of very tight games and extra ends in this World Championship. And it was Canada who ran out victorious. There was a couple of real clutch shots from Canadian fourth thrower John Thurston, both in the 8th end, to take the game to the extra end. And also really super shot that he played to hide a stone behind that central guard in the extra end, and Sweden couldn't quite manage to chip it out. So super performance, some real nerveless shots from the Canadian fourth, John Thurston. And the same in the other semi-final where China was playing Russia. So previously unbeaten China, they came through the round robin, as you can see, with 11 wins and 0 losses. So they were really looking dominant. And then they just had a bit of a slip-up against Russia in their semi-final. And Russia ran out 9-3 winners in that semi-final. Still in the 8th end. And there was a lot of stones in play in that game, a lot of angles to figure out, a lot of ports to draw through. But yeah, Russia and Canada really hung tough. So maybe it was a bit of an advantage for them that they'd already played the qualifying game to get to the semi-final. They already had a bit of a feeling for the ice, whereas China and Sweden had not played earlier on that day. They had a direct passage to the semi-final. So maybe a bit fresher upper body strength, fresher arms, but maybe Canada and Russia had got some learning from those earlier games that day. So that's how our teams got here. So you can see it's always worth fighting for those qualifying places. Russia finished the round robin in 5th place, and here they are fighting out for the gold medal. So it's always worth fighting for those places. So also, as we look at the ranking list, all of these teams will, or at least the top 10 teams, all of them will get ranking points, or sorry, qualification points for the next Paralympics in 2022, which will be held in Beijing. So this World Wheelchair Curling Championship and next year in 2021, the top teams will get qualification Olympic points. The qualification points go to that particular country rather than that particular team. So the top 10 countries with the most Olympic qualifying points after the end of next season, so in 2021, those teams will qualify, I believe it's the top 10. Those top 10 teams will qualify for the 2020 Paralympics in Beijing. So both the teams out here, win or lose today, both Canada and Russia will pick up a lot of Olympic qualifying points in this competition and will really give themselves quite a boost on the way to qualification for the Paralympics in Beijing. So everyone's had a bit of a rest at half-time. Some words of wisdom from their coach and their alternate players. And we see Russia starting us off in the 5th end with another aggressive call. Russia have put up the guard to try to get stones in play. Canada cannot remove that guard while the free guard zone is active. So Canada just going to ignore that guard and play to the wings instead. Remember, Canada now have last shot again. So Russia scored in the 4th end, so that means they start the 5th end and Canada has last shot. So Canada just ignoring that centre guard. they're happy to keep the plate away from the centre. And this looks like a nice effort from Canadian lead and skip Mark Edison. There we are, lovely T-line weight. Russia immediately going to remove that stone. They would love to get a roll behind their centre guard as well. So he's certainly got the yellow. I think he's going to roll too much though. So the red hangs around, but we can, it just pops out the other side of that guard. So Canada with last shot could do a couple of things. If they want to be very aggressive, they could play a gentler weight, like a T-line weight, and just sit in front of that Russian stone. But they're playing it safe. They don't necessarily want a lot of stones in the centre when they come to play last shot. So they're playing it safe, and let's just get rid of this Russian counter. There's another nice overhead of the technique involved in wheelchair curling using stick delivery. Now that guard is still in the free guard zone, and this time it's not going to stay in play, so that guard was illegally removed. You're not allowed to move the stones from play until 5 stones have been played. So it's up to the Russian skip there. You can see him saying, yep, that's where the guard was. So the Canadian stone is removed from play, and the Russian stone goes back to where it was. So that happens from time to time when you're playing towards a stone that's close to a guard in the free guard zone. So that gives a little chance here for Russia to capitalise on that mistake from Canada. I think that's about the first mistake Mark Edison's made though. He's been playing really nicely. So that's a little bit shorter than Russia were going for. I think they wanted it closer to the front ring, but a double guard in the centre, that's not a bad result. Russia's quite happy to keep the guards in the centre, and actually they got a nice little rub there, so they just
finished
moved
up here. I just think I was 9-6.
So that played shot of Russia, it just touched their existing guard over a little bit, so it's covering that stone next to Mark Edison's brush. It's covering it a little bit more. But they're going to persist with removing that Russian counter. And now, if any of the guards go out of play, the free guard zone is over. But we don't need to worry about that because
That was close.
they've got a lovely hit and roll in behind from Dennis Thiessen. There you are. That's a really nice angle. We can see got the roll almost perfectly there. The Russians can only see an edge of that yellow. It just gets around the guard by millimetres. Lovely roll. Couldn't have played that any better. So Russia need to keep a bit of an eye on this because they don't want to let Canada get further ahead. Canada have got last stone, you can see in this end. So Russia need to be a bit careful here. They don't want this getting away from them. So that's not a bad result. Having a stone in front of the tee line, they can use that stone. That's a dangerous stone for Canada. But they don't really want to give Canada the option to
not to hit it, just
score too many points in this end.
Or do you like
the game gets away from them. Let's see what Canada's thinking to do here.
It's tightened up.
I kind of like this. I think they're drawing there again.
Yeah, it's tightening up, eh?
Well, 13.
So this is a nice call. So there's still
Yeah,
space
13, 13 and a half.
on that counterclockwise handle. Russia could still get around that guard that we can see and outcount that Canadian shot. So I like this call. Russia are just going to try to squeeze one in that space in front of their shot yellow to stop Russia getting there. They know this line. He squeaked behind the guard by nothing at all last time. And he's just caught a wee bit of it this time. So that's not bad. I don't think Russia can really get through that port easily, so they're more likely to play on this Russian shot that they played last time, the one that Konstantin Koroktin is indicating with his brush. So they're going to just try and push that a little bit further in towards the centre. This is a sensible play. Russia would love to be able to steal a shot here, so that means they would score even though they don't have last shot, and if they make this shot, they're in a nice strong position. They're not far off. Ooh. And did that push it in enough to be lying shot? Let's see if Mark Edison can...
We're one.
Nope. He's confident that that Canadian shot's still closer to the middle. It's a bit hard to tell from our angle.
You got it on.
That Russian stone on the left as we see it. That's a danger stone that Russia could try the same shot again to push that counter back towards the centre. So Canada just going to remove that danger. There is a double here. If she catches it at the right angle, she could get the pair of the Russian stones out, and she would sit behind cover, and then Russia is in all sorts of trouble.
Just threw it back.
Oh, and that's a costly miss from Canada. You heard Mark Edison say, as Ina Forrest released that, he said, oh, you just touched it back, so it's just a little bit wide of his brush.
I thought you were on the broom.
So now Russia's going to try to use those same angles, but they won't be playing it quite as heavy.
Probably a combo, like I think straight squat.
They'll be playing more like a T-line weight, and just use that stone, just as he's indicating. Use that stone to try to catch an edge of that stone just in front of the Russian skip's brush and redirect thrown stone in towards the middle and in behind cover. Or I think there's a path in directly. I don't think you have to use that wide Russian stone. I think you could just play a direct T-line. But you do have to get around the guard, and he's not going to. Oh, whoopsie. That was not it. That was about 15 feet short
That
there.
was like a 6 or what?
So Canada got away with that miss with the previous shot.
Good
They can
8.5 though.
try it again.
Just set that back a bit.
They've had a look at the shot already. I don't think they'll make the same mistake twice. This looks like a better shot.
Okay.
That's fine. That removes that danger of the Russian stone. Although Russia still has a path in direct to the tee. That's exactly what he's going to try. So he doesn't have any backing. He's got to get the weight exactly right. And again, our wheelchair athletes, they don't have sweepers. So as soon as he releases that shot, he has to get it right first time. There's no sweepers to help guide the direction or help drag the stone a little bit further. We can see him setting up there with his teammate behind supporting, holding the wheels stable. So he wants exactly T-line here. He's got no backing. He has to make it just right. So this definitely looks like a better line. He's definitely around the guards. Is that going to stop in time though? That's coming in hot. So line was lovely, but he's overthrown that a bit.
Okay.
Well, it's always risky playing to the middle when you have last shot. All you need is one nice shot from Russia and you could be in a lot of trouble.
One, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
13.5, 14.
as we say, Canada doesn't mind picking up one. Because of the way the scoreboard is, they're also, you've heard us talking about playing the scoreboard, so because of that significant score of 2 in the first end, even if Canada can make 1 point here, they will again have that 2-point advantage over Russia. So rather than trying to go for some really difficult shots actually and risking bumping Russia in for a shot or something, Canada are just saying, okay, we're just going to block that path, so Russia's going to have to go for a much more difficult shot now. Canada don't mind scoring 1. And just maintaining a lead of 2 points instead of just 1. So yeah, now Russia's having to look at something a lot more difficult. Canada has blocked that path. He's having to look at driving those front reds. So front red onto second front red, onto red in the forefoot, onto yellow. So pretty complex stuff. This is his last shot. Or he could just be trying the direct raise. So those 2 reds sitting on the center line. It looks like he is trying to push that front red into the second red with exactly the right weight to push it back to the tee line. So usual setup, thrower sets up, teammate supports stability. So just a gentle weight here. I think he's just trying to directly tap those reds back into the forefoot circle. It's got a bit to curl though. I think his weight was not bad, but it didn't quite curl enough. So Canada still lying 1.
Well, this is last rock, right?
I'm
This
not
is
sure
last
you
rock.
can get shot.
I fully agree with that assessment. I think Canada might be wise to just take their 1.
Try the red-yellow run onto that red one. What do you think?
No.
I think that's a much more sensible idea.
I think you can get side
Sorry.
button here. It
I
should
didn't sense-
finish.
I didn't sense the sarcasm in that.
Yeah, so Canada doesn't want to
12.75.
go anywhere near that Russian stone in the front of the forefoot. They don't want to risk accidentally tapping it. It would just take a couple of centimetres for Russia to be shot rather than Canada, so they want to stay well away from that Russian stone there. And there's no risks to this shot. Even if Canada pick up that 1, they will again be 2 points ahead of Russia, and they'll be quite happy with that. So a nice line here, but I think that's running on a bit.
1 yellow. Yeah. 1 yellow.
So 1 yellow it is. Both teams agreed, no measure needed.
What was that on?
And Canada go back to 2 points ahead after 5 ends. There we are, confirmation of that score there. So the score on the screen is correct. So Canada scored 1 in that 5th end. So their total score is now 4. Russia 2.
Measure. Okay.
Oh, they are going to measure it after all. Yeah, it was hard for us to tell from our angle whether the red was closer or the yellow, but Mark Edison was absolutely definite when he looked at it.
I was playing all in.
But this is a World Championship final,
So I thought so.
and I would do the same if there was any doubt. It's always worth having the umpire measure just to confirm. So I think this is very sensible of Russia to say, let's just make sure. And Canada won't mind that. In the same situation, Canada would definitely do the same. They would say, let's just make sure. So you can see the umpire, there's a little pin that comes down from that metal arm that just brushes past the stone. So he's just fixing where the pin is for the yellow. And there we go. And then he'll move round to the red. So he confirms, he points to the yellow stone, moves the red away. He confirms that it was yellow, but it was close. I think Russia was wise to call for the measure just to make sure.
Turn lid.
So now we can confirm that score in the 5th end. That indeed Canada scored 1. There we are. That goes up on the scoreboard now. 1 to Canada. They have their 2-point lead back again.
So, like,
But Russia now has last stone in this 6th end.
Yeah,
So
I like it.
Russia 2 points behind. They've got last shot, but they're
What's our
running out of
time?
ends a bit. We've only got 3 ends now. So Russia's going to have to make a move fairly soon to try to grab back that 2-point deficit. Russia can't afford that they just let Canada win them to death. So we see how significant that score of 2 points was in the first end. Canada are now quite happy to just continue to get 1 point and maintain that 2-point lead. So Russia can't afford to just keep picking up 1. They're going to have to make a move and really try to force the issue and try to pick up more than 1. So Canada will be doing the same again. They're +2. They're quite happy to play stones in the house. They don't want guards out front that Russia can also use. So nice start there. Good stone again from Mark Edison. He's having another strong game. So let's see what Russia do. So this is definitely not a takeout. So this is a bit more aggressive now from Russia. I think they'll be mindful that they've only got 3 ends left now. 6, 7 and 8. So they're going to have to make a move to try to get that 2-point deficit back. So this is a more aggressive call. What they're going to do is try to nudge up to that Canadian shot just played. It's a nice shot from Canada, but it's just behind tee line, as you can see. So what Russia's trying to do is play just the right way to sit right in front of it. It's an excellent effort from Russian lead Daria
I like the
Shukina.
in, yeah.
That was
Little
still the right
more,
call,
little
even
more, yeah.
though Canada can remove this. That was
No.
definitely the right call. And that was a good effort from Daria.
You got it, Mark.
And again, if you're a foot curler or more used to non-wheelchair curling, let's just remember that Daria has to get that line and weight perfect every time, because she doesn't have sweepers to help guide that stone like in foot curling. So Canada just going to try to
Come on,
remove
Ryan,
that.
just a bit.
Come on now.
No trouble there.
Okay. Throw, Mark.
That yellow's going to roll out, so Russia have the chance to try again. Same idea. They'd love to just sit right in front of that Canadian shot in the 4-foot blue circle. And she's had a practice shot at it, so she knows what kind of line and weight she needs to throw with this one.
No.
And Russia are right to persist with this tactic. They need to start being a bit more aggressive.
What was time?
So again, this is a tough shot to really land it in exactly the right place, right in front of that Canadian shot. When you don't have sweepers to guide the line and the weight. This is an excellent effort. That's a lovely shot
Good shot.
from Daria Shukina. Yeah, even Canada acknowledging that's a nice shot there. Curling's a
Just half a rock high.
very gentlemanly
3/4
sport.
high.
You will often hear the
8.5.
opposition complimenting
You got it done.
the other team on a nice shot, just like we heard Canada compliment Russia there. You'll also notice that I've been saying he and she, him and her, throughout this game, and that's because another difference, small difference between wheelchair curling and men's and ladies is that in wheelchair curling, you always have both genders represented.
Nice throw, Dennis.
That's another nice throw there from Dennis Thiessen.
You stick hot or something?
In wheelchair curling, we must have at least one man and at least one woman
Throw.
in all the teams. So you'll always see both genders represented in the wheelchair teams. And there are plenty of women in this competition and in wheelchair curling in general who are skip or vice skip. We can see that Ina Forrest is the vice skip for Canada. There are a couple of ladies who were skipping the team in this competition.
Shot.
That's a nice shot from Russia. But actually it doesn't help them too much. Russia need to start building points here. They're running out of ends. They're -2. They need to
Nose is good.
try to get back this deficit so that this is a
weight.
lovely double takeout.
Same weight.
But I'm
I'll
not
give
sure
you
it
a
helps
little
them
more.
too much.
You got it, Dennis.
They need to start keeping stones in play. This is now an easy shot for Canada to remove this Russian shot. And Russia are not giving themselves a good chance to build stones here. I don't think they're going to get a lot of mistakes from Canada to try to capitalise on. I think they're going to have to try to take the game to Canada. And they're not quite doing that just now. So Canada says, thank you very much. A nice open hit. We're happy with that. So it looks like either Russia have decided to bail out this end, so they've decided not to try to be aggressive and just save their energy and save their aggressive shots for the 7th end. It should be a little bit disappointing. We're only halfway through this end. There's still plenty of shots to come in this end, but indeed they're really sticking to this hitting game. So that can
Sophomore.
work.
So 13
If you stick to the
Top
hitting
4, top
game,
8.
your opposition, they'll miss a hit eventually, but both of these teams, this is a world final. These teams have not been missing a lot of shots to get to this position. So I think if Russia's hoping for a Canadian miss in this hitting game, I think they could be waiting the whole 8 ends. I'm not sure that would be the wisest strategy. I think Russia are going to have to take this game to Canada. They're going to have to start being a bit more aggressive. I think it's clear that Canada are totally comfortable with the hitting game. And looks like they're pretty comfortable with the drawing game as well. That's a nice effort from Ina Forrest. So again, Russia has the opportunity to try to generate a play here. So they could just play that same weight that Ina Forrest just played and try and roll up to that Canadian shot, sit right in front of it and give yourself backing, but they're choosing not to do that. They're again going for the hit, so they're either hoping for a mistake from Canada, which is a little bit optimistic to expect at this stage, I think, or they may be committed to making sure they can score
Which
one in
turn?
this end, close that deficit to 1 point,
What turn do you like?
and then go all out aggressive for the last 2 ends. That could be the Russian tactic. We shall see. But they're definitely running out of ends. They're going to have to commit to this game pretty soon.
Eight and a half, 9.
Oh, you got hold. Got it on.
Okay.
Yep, another clinical takeout from Ina Forrest from Canada there.
Good weight. 8-9. Just a hair tight.
So I think this might be a bit little too late here from Russia, now deciding to play a more aggressive idea and put up a guard. It's a wee bit late in the end to switch up the tactics, but let's see if it works for them. So here's third player Andrei Mishcheryakov from Russia. Throwing up a nice gentle weight. They just want a guard. They want it to stop before the rings. I think he's got the weight just nicely there. So nice shot there from Russia.
We got two choices. We got this or peel.
There we go. Mark Edison's doing my job for me.
Roll in.
It's too high.
It's too high.
Yeah.
I like peel.
They can either remove it, the peel, peeling a stone, or they can come in behind it. I agree with John Thurston. I think this is the right call. Canada are plus 2 points already. They don't want to get involved with having multiple stones in play. This is exactly what I would do if I was plus 2. This makes perfectly sense. So you can hear Mark Edison encouraging that stone over, so that's not a bad result, but they have left that guard in play. That's exactly what Russia was hoping for. They were hoping for a half shot from Canada, that they didn't manage to clear the guard completely. So that guard's pretty wide now, but it's still there. You can still get a stone in behind it. There you are. There's a nice angle. Oh, no, that's not the angle of the throwing. That's us at the throwing end rather than... There we are. That's the angle there. So, yeah, he's going to try and slot a stone in behind that corner guard. So that was just a bit of a half shot from Canada. That's what Russia was hoping for. So now they need to really take this chance to get in behind that guard, make it difficult for Canada to remove that shot and try to score 2 points. So let's see, it's been quite a hitting game. They've not had too much practice at a draw weight, and indeed that is not going to hang around. So Russia not taking their chances here. They got the mistake, the half shot from Canada.
Must be a fairly quick pass.
Didn't take their chance to
okay.
Consolidate that.
13.
So now Canada's going to try to punish them. You can hear the players again talking about the timing of the stone, how long the stone...
Should get some finish outside the 8 foot.
There we go. How long should that stone take between the hog lines? They think about 13 seconds for a nice T-line weight. And John Thurston has been really consistent for Canada in these knockout games. He's had a handful of really clutch shots, and he's been absolutely nerveless, so I'm confident that he can put a bit of pressure on Russia now. So no chance for Russia to make 2 points. Here comes a lovely shot from Canada's John Thurston again.
It's a good throw, John.
That's a lovely throw, yeah. So that just puts that pressure on Russia.
13.
Russia doesn't have an open house to make a decision about. So if Russia misses this shot, Canada will score 1. So essential that Russia now make this shot. No chance to make 2 points, but they need to make sure they get one. So he's just ignored that Canadian counter. He just wants to draw towards the centre. That's a bit easier for him. This looks pretty good. That's going to stop just in time. That's a great shot from Russia. He really had to make that. That's the difference between a point score of 4-3 and 5-2. So that's a huge difference. So that was a really excellent shot there from the Russian skip, Konstantin Kuroktin.
Save 2. Like it. Keep it going. Keep it going.
And again, let's remember that he has to make that shot. He has to get that shot exactly where he needs it without any sweeping. So no sweeping helping, no sweepers are helping to guide the stone.
Finished nice.
Or to help with the weight.
12.7, 12.64.
I had 12.84, but
I had 12.64. So we'll meet in the middle with 12.7.
sure, I like it.
I had 12.6 on his.
Oh no, I had 12.84 on his. I don't remember what I had on yours. 12.65.
So that was an important save from Russia. They've reduced the deficit to 1 point after 6 ends. So the score is, there we see the score confirmed there. So that's Russia 3, Canada 4 after 6 ends. We're now in the 7th end. And Canada has last shot again. So again, Canada will be feeling reasonably comfortable here. Russia's gone for the aggressive shot. They've got no choice. They've got 2 ends left, Russia. And they need to close that 1 point deficit and get a winning point. Canada, on the other hand, not so much pressure on them. They're 1 point ahead and they have last shot. So they're just going to ignore that centre guard. They're going to try to keep play towards the wings. And they don't really need a corner guard here. That would be an overly aggressive call at this stage. So I suspect they're just trying to put one into the house. Yep.
Is that good weight, Mark?
Here's another lovely weight from Mark Edison. He's been doing this all day. What a nice shot. So again, Russia's got no choice here. They can't be concerned about that Canadian counter. They have to commit to being aggressive now. They have to commit to getting to that centre point before Canada. If Canada scores this end, Russia's life is pretty difficult in the last end. If Canada scores, Russia will be at least 2 points down. And they haven't really looked like making a 2-all game. So from Russia's perspective, it's pretty important that they don't let Canada score this end.
Still a good pass, I think. 13 and a half. I'm getting 14-2 on their last one.
So now Canada are going to call Russia's bluff. They say, well, guess what? We've got nice T-line. We're going to go around and get to the centre before you and put a bit of pressure on Russia. Russia know they really have to score this end. They can't let Canada get further away.
I like it. Out of my hand.
It's coming down.
Seems like the Canadian team liked this shot. I think we're going to see why. That's another really nice shot from Mark Edison. So not only is that a second counter now in the house, but that's really blocked that handle. So the clockwise handle, that's really blocks that path to the centre for Russia there. We can see with that angle, it would be very hard for Russia to get a stone
but it is tightening up
with the clockwise turn near the middle. So they're going to have to go to the other side of the house now use the counterclockwise handle
Yeah, no,
and see if they can sneak one in behind.
No, I agree.
Russia have to play aggressive now. We probably won't see too many more takeout shots from Russia because they need stones in play. This is a pretty good effort. That is a nice shot from Russia. Well played. Good stuff from Vitaly Danilov, the second player for Russia.
If we make this double peel, the red might go on the yellow on the red, if we're lucky.
Okay.
Let's just have a look at lovely shot. You maybe heard some applause in the background for
just high.
really well executed shot there from
8.5.
Russia. That had to be good, so that's now putting pressure on Canada. You can see how nicely guarded that Russian shot is. That was a super shot.
If you just
So
get the top one, that's all right.
Canada now going to remove those centre guards. They're no use to Canada. They're hiding that lovely Russian stone just played.
Stay up.
So Canada quite happy to now start clearing up a bit.
Just like that.
There we go. That's exactly what Markidis said could happen. And good heavens, he's got a bit of a roll behind his own centre guard. We can see even a rueful Russian smile there.
Shot. Nice shot.
Let's take another look at this. Look at these angles. That's exactly what Markidis said would happen in a best case. And here comes a best case stone.
Right on the pin.
Look at that. Gets a little bonus hit and roll behind their own centre guard. So all the Russian skip can do is smile at that one. But they still have options. They're still happy that the centre guard's there. Doesn't matter to them that it's a Canadian stone. But this has got a bit to curl, this shot.
Oh,
Well, now it's Russia's turn to maybe get a bit of a nice rub.
wow.
That's not too bad a result there for Russia.
Just inside nose.
You got it.
9.
So just took a slight little rub there on their own guard. And that looked like that might just reach the face of the Canadian stone, but it's still open. So
8.5,
Canada
9.
should be able to cleanly remove this. But Russia has given themselves a bit of space with their next shot probably.
Hold up, a little more.
You could hear the
Drop.
Canadians urging that stone to hold up a bit. So it just overcurled a little bit, but that's a decent effort. So this end is really starting to look like do or die for Russia. So there are Canadian counters building up, but Russia can't afford to be concerned about them. Russia has got to get a shot in the middle now. They're really committed to this aggressive end now. So even though those Canadian counters are building up and Canada has last shot, this is a bit do or die. They can't afford to be concerned about the Canadian counters. They have to get close to that centre. They have to just keep persisting with getting a shot round that centre guard and out-counting that Canadian shot there. This looks a bit better. This looks like a nice effort here from Russia. Very nice shot. Yep. And again, you hear Canada complimenting the Russian team on that nice shot. I'm sure Russia is doing the same, but I don't speak Russian, so I'm not able to recognise it. But this is very typical in curling that both teams are happy to see a good shot.
8.5.
They appreciate seeing a really nice shot played.
Nice and smooth.
So this is exactly the right call for Canada. They have last shot. They don't really want guards on the centre line. They'd rather have a nice easier shot, a simpler shot. So no trouble for Ina Forrest there.
Okay,
Nice clearance off the
Time
centre
out.
line. So the Russian skip Konstantin Kurokhtin holds his hands aloft there in the sign of the T, meaning timeout. So you can see there the clock behind his head has just stopped, and Team Russia has called a timeout. So both teams have a timeout during 8 ends of play. I think this is a wise move from Russia. Let's just steady the ship a little bit. Let's have a think about things. So that green clock in the middle, that is called travelling time. So the Russian coach is on their way down from the viewing area. And when the Russian coach gets there, they will begin a 1-minute timeout. The Russian coach just making his way to the far end. And then they will have a 1-minute timeout where they can discuss what's the best strategy from here. So this is really a key point in the game, in the whole match for Russia here. So they lie that nice shot that was just played just at the back of the forefoot. That's in a nice position. But there are a few Canadian counters lying around. So I think this is a wise call to let's have a chat with the coach. Let's make sure we're all aligned. So they won't only be thinking about what do we do with this shot, they'll also be thinking, when we play our shot, how will Canada respond? And then what should we do with our last stones in this end? Because it's essential that they don't let Canada get too far ahead of them for the 8th end. So that's what they'll be discussing. And then further down the ice, Team Canada are having a team confab as well. They will be equally well aware of Russia's options. So they will also be discussing, if Russia plays this shot, how do we respond? Or if Russia plays this other shot, how shall we respond? So they will know the possibilities that Russia are discussing, and they'll be talking about how they want to respond so that they can keep that pressure on Russia. I do think Russia's played a good end here. They've had no choice but to commit to the aggressive end, commit to playing towards the middle. So discussion over. They didn't even need their 1-minute timeout. You can see the clock in red. That's the timeout in the background, counting down 1-minute timeout. So the decision's been made.
Throwing it in again. Throwing it in again. Down to it.
So I think the line is not in question. So they really want to put something in front of their own stone here. It's really all about the weight here, because if they make a guard that's too long, Canada will have space to sneak around it. But if this shot that they're about to play, if that gets too close to the Russian stone already in the rings there, they could leave a double takeout for Canada. So the line's not in question here. It's all about weight. And again, let's remember that our wheelchair athletes, they don't have sweepers. So that's the weight. He's released the stone. The weight is what it is. I think this is going to overcurl. So does the Russian skip. He's got a rueful smile there. Oh, that's just overcurled. It's not in a terrible position. They can still use that, Russia. But they have left that shot open for Canada now. They're putting a bit of pressure on their skip now. He's going to have to come up with a really perfect shot behind that guard. So Canada with last shot in this end there, you can see Canada with 3 stones to play, including this one. Russia with 2. So Canada happy to keep life simple. Let's just get rid of that Russian counter. So there's a nice clearance shot there from Ina Forrest.
Shot. Removes
the Russian danger. So Russia has 2 shots only left to come. So you can see they're having a real think about this now. Again, yep, exactly where his brush is. That's where the stone has to end up. They have to commit to this aggressive end now. You need to hold your nerve a bit. It's a bit scary looking at those Canadian counters. But for Russia to have a chance in this game, they need to make sure they score here. So the skip's going to go around that guard. Oh. Actually, no, he's not. They've had a different idea, so they're going to go around the corner guards instead. So what they want to do, in fact, is just nudge up against the nearest of the yellows to the centre. So they're the yellow in the white circle, in the 8-foot circle as we're looking at it. This is a brave call. So if he makes this shot perfectly, the Russian stone will be shot, and he will have cancelled out those 3 Canadian counters. So maybe those Canadian shots are getting into the Russian heads a little bit, that they don't want to give Canada the chance to run away with the game at this end. So this is a brave call. Looks pretty good so far. Has it got the legs? Yes, it does. That's an excellent effort from Russia again. We hear Canada complimenting that. So there you can see from this angle. Not so easy for Canada to pick this out. John Thurston's played a lot of nice shots, so I wouldn't put it past him to clean this one out.
8.5, 8.
But Russia's made it a little bit harder for him. There's a bit of backing there. He's played an awful lot of clutch shots in this competition, John Thurston, so he won't be nervous. I think he's done it. There we are. Lovely shot, Canada. Removed that Russian danger again. So I guess Russia will, yep, they're going to play that same shot. He's just played it. Let's have another look at that lovely pick out there from John Thurston. That was a dangerous shot. You can see it went across the face of that yellow in the 8-foot, the white circle, by nothing at all. So could easily have gone wrong for Canada there. So that was a really well executed shot from John Thurston. So now the Russian skip's playing the same shot he just played. Needs to be at least as good as his last shot. So this is a real pressure shot again. He's come up with several great shots under pressure, has Konstantin Kuroktin. And for the sake of good curling, let's hope he makes a nice shot now. So he had a look at this shot already with his first stone. This is pretty similar. That's a great effort again. So that is shot. From this angle, it surely looks like that red is closer to the centre. And Canada can see about half of it. And again, there's that risk that they may catch that back yellow. So that's a great save from Konstantin Kuroktin of Russia. Big respect for a real clutch shot there. That could have been a real game changer if he'd got that shot wrong.
It's red.
Okay.
So Rakidison confirms what it looks like from our angle. Same shot, he says, to John Thurston. So again, just trying to chip it out. He just wants to catch the edge of that red. He doesn't mind if his own stone rolls out as well. As long as he removes that red, Canada should pick up 2 points here. This is not easy though. Tough shot coming up for John Thurston here.
Hold on.
Maybe there's another shot to consider.
Come on down.
I don't think Canada have used their timeout, so they may call a timeout, or they may just have a bit of a team discussion.
I can't tell if it's yellow, then the draw might be easier.
That's a good point there. From our angle, it looked like red, but we
got 6 minutes.
certainly not on top of the rocks. So everyone having a good look at that. They're saying if that yellow in the 8-foot is already shot, so that's Canada's already scoring 1. They seem to think it might be, then they could just draw for 2, which would really make Russia's life very difficult in the 8th end. It looks like the decision is the same shot as last time, so they're maybe not confident it's yellow. I think they believe that that red shot just to the right of the broom as we see it, Canada thinks that's the shot, so they want to just try and chip it out like they did with the previous stone. So deep breath, John Thurston. Here it goes. He's not bad. Oh my goodness.
I think we'll measure those. Yeah.
He just doesn't quite catch an edge, so Russia did enough to put that pressure on.
Yeah.
So whether this is red or whether it's yellow, I think that was a super end for Russia. They were in a lot of trouble, and Konstantin Kuroktin really played a couple of terrific shots to get them out of trouble, to put pressure on Canada.
Close.
Yeah.
Just set it a little
So
more.
Russia's worst case is that there's a deficit of 2, and Russia's best case is that they've now drawn level. So it feels a bit churlish to criticise John Thurston, who's been pulling clutch shot after clutch shot out of his pocket for the team. He was ever so close to just chipping that red out. But that speaks to the quality of the shot that Russian skip Konstantin Kuroktin played. It is red. The umpire points to red after a second measure in this game. 1 red it is, so well played Russia. So scores are all level in the 8th end.
Yes. Let's go. Spin draw.
So yep, high fives all round from Russia.
Tied up with.
That could have definitely gone the other way. There were a lot of Canadian counters hanging around that end. They were really starting to build up, so
I think they're going to throw the double center.
that was
they will.
some brave stuff there from Russia that paid off for them. So scores all level, 4 each. Going into the 8th end, Canada with hammer. So a slight advantage to Canada. They have the last stone. They'll have the last say in this gold medal game. Russia will start us off in this 8th end, so both teams will be aiming to score 1. So this is almost like an extra end. The scores are level. Both teams need to score 1 point for the game.
2 more rocks.
So Canada has last shot. They'll be wanting to keep things clear. They'll be very happy to look at a totally empty house for their last shot. Russia will want to do the opposite. They will be trying to make full use of the free guard zone. So Daria Shukina, the lead player for Russia. It's essential that this stone ends up in the free guard zone so that Canada cannot remove it. And again, let's remember she doesn't have sweepers to help guide the direction and the weight. And that's a great shot there. Lovely start from Daria Shukina. So Canada cannot remove that stone. So they're just going to ignore it and play towards the wing. And that might seem like a funny idea.
What do you think down here?
But this is kind of an insurance shot for Canada. So what they're doing is they're setting up a stone to sit out there on the wing. Mark Edison has played this shot again and again in this competition. So Canada is hoping to have a shot sitting on the tee line out in the wing, so that if it comes to last shot, they give themselves a chance that if there's a Russian stone in the middle, all they have to do is remove it, but they don't have to sit themselves, because hopefully they'll have a stone just hanging on in the wings. And to the surprise of no one, another lovely shot from Canadian skip Mark Edison. So again, Russia have no choice. They have to ignore that shot. The hitting game's not going to get them points here. So they're going to persist with playing towards the middle. They would really like to have a second guard in play here.
Second corner, second center.
This looks like a lovely setup from Russian lead Daria Shukina. Very nice stones, really well played. So that's a nice setup there for Russia. Canada cannot remove those 2 red Russian guards yet. So they're just going to try to get to the centre before Russia does.
I'm thinking, yeah, same feel.
Yeah, you got it.
Same feel, says Mark Edison. That same weight would be lovely. Let's get to that centre, control that centre, top of tee before Russia can get there. And that's a little bit shorter, but that's a nice shot still. That blocks the path in for Russia, so Canada will be pretty happy with that.
Looked like he had enough of it out of his hand. Looked like he had enough of it. Enough out of his hand.
And Russia are happy to keep some stones in play. They don't have last shot, so their ideal situation is a stone nice and close to the middle with some guards protecting it out front. This looks like a great effort. Look at that. So 1, 2, 3 stones from Russia. They could hardly have gone and placed them any better.
Half rock.
That's a super shot for Russia. That really
Hit
gives them
this
a
high,
chance.
Dennis.
Lovely shot from Vitaly Danilov there.
8.5.
You got it, Dennis.
And Canada won't panic. They've got last shot. They're just going to start removing the guards on the centre line now. But Russia really put themselves in a nice position. They've given themselves the chance to steal this game from under Canada's nose here. This looks... That's not bad from Dennis Thiessen. He doesn't get the double, but he removes one of the guards. But Russia still in a nice position here. They want to consolidate their position in the centre here. So what they're doing, I think he's going to point to where he wants... Yes, he is. He says, place the stone just here, please. So he's quite happy with where that Russian counter is, right in the middle. Again, they have to be brave and just ignore the Canadian counter scattered around. They have to commit to protecting that red stone in the centre.
Good eye.
So I'm not sure what's going on. There's some kind of technical difficulty, it looks like.
Good catch.
I think maybe that was the wrong numbered stone. The stones are all numbered and they play them in the same order each time. So right, everybody's happy. We've got the right stone. So Russia are going to continue just trying to block up this centre line, make it difficult for Canada to remove that shot stone. My guess is they'd want to... Nice smile there from Russian second player, Vitaly Danilov. Just like that. So they're quite happy if that just curls just over that centre line, because at the moment there's still a path right to the pin for Canada.
We want to get rid of this one for
There's
sure.
still a path on the counterclockwise handle to come all the way behind everything.
If you get that one, so be it. I think it's... Yeah, you can start. That's good.
But this is the right call from Canada. They don't need to get involved in trying to get to the pin at this stage. We're only just about halfway through the end. So the right strategy for Canada is to keep trying to keep their life easy, keep trying to clear up the middle.
Just throw it in.
That's a nice shot from Dennis Thiessen. So he's removed that guard off the centre line and he's brought that yellow in the front ring, in the red 12-foot circle. He's brought that into play. So now Canada can see their yellow in the front ring.
Shot.
And they could potentially use that to try to remove the Russian shot stone. And Russia, of course, are going to do the opposite. They're going to try to put that guard back again. Keep trying to protect that lovely shot that Vitaly Danilov played. So it's a cracking finish to this World Wheelchair Curling Championship final gold medal game. So unlikely there'll be an extra end. I don't see a blank end coming here. That's an interesting shot. So
You can hit that anywhere.
I think if you hit that front red, just played, I think that touches the yellow.
We got to hit as close to nose as possible, but
Exactly, yep. So
just off nose high.
if you hit the nose of that stone, that yellow is nicely lined up to squirt back
You got it, on.
straight onto that Russian shot that's been in the centre for much of the end. So that Russian shot just played, ran a little bit deep and has set up this red to yellow plant. So let's see.
Curl up.
He's asking this one to curl a little bit. Well, she's still got it. Lovely shot from Ina Forrest there. Really making use of that mistake from Russia. So that's really got Canada out of a pickle. There we go. Just squirts that yellow back. And even for an encore, gets a little roll behind that centre guard. So that really got Canada out of trouble. That's lovely stone there from Ina Forrest. Russia's still got options. They've still got a centre guard. And they have to just commit to playing towards the centre here. So they're just trying to play onto that yellow right in the centre. They just have to move it a little bit, but this looks a bit chunky. This is not even going to touch the yellow. It just edges it, but that's made a bit more space, but that's
Which
not
turn
quite
do you
what
like?
Russia wanted. Now here's a situation where you can do a couple of things. Canada are keen to remove that Russian counter. I would take off the centre guard. I would like to make my own life easy if I have last shot, if I'm Canada. And I feel like if you remove that centre guard, then you should be facing a more straightforward final stone. But let's see if it works for them.
Nice line, eh?
So yeah, another clinical shot from Ina
done.
Forrest.
Okay, that's okay.
That's in a dangerous place now. So both of those Canadian counters are behind T. That's exactly the shot she was asked for, but both of those Canadian counters are behind T. So what Russia will be doing, if they can get a stone exactly to the middle of those yellow shots, so exactly T line, exactly that weight, just right to that pin in the middle, that's going to be awfully difficult for Canada to remove. So again, Russia looking to Konstantin Kuroktin to make a clutch draw here. He's made an awful lot of good shots under pressure today and throughout the competition. So he knows exactly what he has to do here. He has to get to that little pocket where those yellows are sitting behind the T line. Then he will be closer to the middle, and he will hope that Canada will find it difficult to remove. So he doesn't really want to move these yellow stones out. He just wants to nudge up against them. This looks pretty nice. This looks like a great shot. That's exactly it. Look at that. That's exactly where he wanted it. So that was the danger with leaving that centre
Time out.
guard out and just removing the Russian counter instead. So look, he could not have gone up there and placed it any better. He's covered the hole. He's right behind that centre guard, which Canada left. And Canada cannot get to that red shot. So even if Canada could sneak around that centre guard with either handle, they're going to run straight into their own yellow.
If we move this,
let's listen in.
if we move, no, we won't be, but we'd be here.
What are your thoughts?
That was a good shot. That's what my thought was. Well, I think, yeah, just play like, yeah, I think that's all we got, or we peel and he guards, right? Yeah, so I think we just, if we can get to nose, even just a little high, move it back here, and then if we can sit on top of ours, then we'll have a shot this way, and then we might be able to pick it the other way, right?
Okay. So what weight?
Yeah. So I think 12 and a half. 12 and a half, 12? 12 and a half, 12?
Okay.
Well, we're,
I got a minute.
that was 13.6, so 12 and a half, John. 12 and a half. I like it. You like it, Wayne? Okay.
So timeout discussion concluded
Nice
for
shot.
Team Canada. And there again, Canada just complimenting the Russian team on a really fantastic shot. That could be a game changer. That shot from Konstantin Kuroktin. So they reckon to play this at a bit of weight. They need to move that shot, obviously. That's covered the pin. So if Canada wants to score this end and win this game, they have to move that red. So they need to play with a little bit of weight. They may not be able to sit shot after this stone, but they need to give themselves a chance to have a shot with their final shot, with their final stone in this end. So here it comes. They talked about 12.5. So longer than T-weight. He has to catch a bit of this red. He has to start moving things around a wee bit. It's looking pretty nice. But like we said, that red's not going anywhere.
It's a good shot,
So
John.
it is a good shot. So they've given themselves a chance. Now that red's a little bit more vulnerable. But as we said, on either hand, that red was never going to be going out of play with this shot. So Russia's still sitting short. That red still covering the pin. But a little bit more vulnerable. If Canada can get to that yellow just played, here it is coming in again. So they've now removed that backing. That one yellow's not backing anymore. And if Canada can ever get to that front yellow that John Thurston just played really nicely, I think that's about the best they could have done with that shot, then they've given themselves a chance at this. So again, looking for a clutch shot from Konstantin Kuroktin. He's going to try to make sure that Canada cannot get to that lovely yellow right at the front of the forefoot that we just saw. So he needs to make sure that there is no path to that dangerous yellow for Canada. Here it goes, Russia's last shot of this competition. This looks pretty nice again. He just wants it to stay on that line. He doesn't want it to curl too much. That's a great shot. Again, there's not much better he could have done with that.
Is that thin double there?
I think this is there.
Yeah, Canada can't really use that. Well, they can't
That,
directly
like
use
the weight I threw?
Yeah.
that yellow that they just threw previously.
You like it?
Okay.
What they can do is try to come in off.
More than the thin double?
Yeah, the thin double goes over top. You got 30 seconds.
Okay.
The thin double goes
same
over top.
weight I just threw?
Yeah.
So you heard that conversation there, just same weight that John Thurston just threw. I think he's trying to just feather off that wider yellow. Just try to, or he may be just going directly to just try to catch an edge of his previous shot. There's Team Russia all supporting each other, holding shoulders there. There's nothing more they can do. They've done their best. They've given themselves a
It's
chance.
by. It's good.
Is it by? Is it by?
No.
Oh, I just caught the edge of it. That's a great try from Canada. That was a very difficult shot. So all smiles from Team Russia. Well deserved. They really ground out that win there. They worked ever so hard to
Yeah, that was a good game.
get point after point there.
Well played, Constantine. Well played.
Yeah, they're Canada. Credit is due. Well played, Constantine. A lot of great shots there when they really needed them.
Good game. Well played.
And let's take nothing away from Canada. That was a super performance as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay with us for the
Great game.
Congratulations. Which will start.
Pretty good, buddy. Congratulations.
These teams know each other pretty well, so
Yes, Mark.
they've
yes.
played each other many times.
Great, great.
All celebrating
Celebrate.
a great game of curling.
Yeah.
And I hope Canada are not too disappointed. Canada came up from the qualifying competition this year. So to win a silver medal, I hope they're not disappointed. I'm sure they'll feel disappointed
Better than last year.
in the end. Exactly, better than last
so
year. Yeah,
close.
last
You're
year
almost
they dropped
there.
down to qualifying. So I think that's a super performance from Canada, battling their way from the qualifying competition all the way to a silver medal, all the way to the last shot of a World Wheelchair Championship gold medal match. But all credit to Russia. They had to work ever so hard. They really had to switch it up and start making more aggressive shots than they did. From the sixth end onwards, they really stuck to their task. So all credit to them. They played the clutch shots really well when they had to. Here's Norway come over to congratulate. So all smiles and high fives. Quite right, Russia. You really fought to literally the last stone for that. Well done. And I think let's recognise special credit there to Daria Shukina and Vitaly Danilov, who those first three shots in that eighth end, goodness me, that made life difficult for Canada. So if I was the Russian back end, the third and fourth players, I would be saying, you know who won that eighth end? Daria and Vitaly, you won that eighth end with beautiful shot placement with your first three stones. So all smiles for Team Russia. Rightly so. They're getting congratulated now by Sweden, our bronze medal winners. We're just seeing all the teams now coming down for the medal presentation. We can see their confirmation of the result of this, the 14th World Wheelchair Curling Championships. Bronze medal won by Sweden, who also came up from qualifying competition this year, so great strength and depth in the wheelchair game. So congratulations Team Sweden with a bronze medal. Congratulations Team Canada, also coming up from the qualifying competition and fighting to the very last shot and earning a great silver medal. And golden congratulations to Team Russia, who were chasing that game. They were chasing that final game for quite a while, but they really stuck to their task. They worked hard when they had to. They worked hard when they were running out of ends. Really gave themselves the chance. Took that chance. And now they are the world champions. So that concludes this, the World Wheelchair Curling Championship 2020 from Wetzikon Curling Club. So thank you everyone for joining us. There's been quite a few people tuning in online, so thank you everyone for your support. The wheelchair game gets bigger and bigger and better every year. So look out for more wheelchair curling competitions on the live stream, and next year at the World Wheelchair Curling Championships. I think the venue is not yet decided, so we shall close the competition there. So once again, congratulations to our medal winners, Team Sweden bronze, Team Canada silver, and World Champions 2020 Team Russia with gold. Thank you everyone for joining, and see you at the next competition.